Hi, my name is Annette Lawler, founder Lion People Global. Welcome to the next instalment of our Ask the Expert style of interviews on the topic of mergers and acquisitions for the localization industry. Today we're here in Cardiff, and as always we're here with our expert Olga Blasco, and joined today by Bernadette Byrne, Senior Director and Operations Manager for The Big Word and independent consultant. Bernadette, welcome to Cardiff. Thanks for agreeing to join us today. Bernadette, you've been in this industry for many, many years, I think 22 years at this point. Maybe you can share with us a little bit about all of the changes that you've seen in relation to mergers and acquisitions within this industry over that time.
And decided to focus on building up the translation. So very quickly we were looking at how we could scale the operation, what services we didn't currently offer. So there was a number of small acquisitions to do voiceovers, for example. So we acquired a London office with that, so it was only a few people, some customer bases, but we suddenly had access to voiceover, subtitling, and a whole new strand of services and products. And then very quickly moved into acquiring a business in Leamington Spa, which gave us Japanese customers. Some of them are still Big Word customers today after sort of 25 years. So I guess the acquisition strategy was looking for products and services that were currently not offered that could be offered. Mm-hmm. And then it was also from a regional perspective. So first came, I think, the US, then China, then setting up something in Europe with putting a sales model in there. So I think over the years it's been developing expertise by either buying businesses or looking for a foothold in a specific geographic location. So it's, and that leads us to effectively today, where you've got capabilities to provide services to the military, both in the UK and the US, government contracts, and translation services to some of the world's largest organisations. And it's grown from, when I started, about 10 people, and now 600 people, 15,000 linguists, and a turnover of nearly £18 million.
Amazing. So you have a wealth of experience in this area yourself. But perhaps you have a question for Olga. I'll hand you over to Olga, and you guys can have a discussion, and we can listen to some of those insights and knowledge.
Yeah. So I guess my question for you, Olga, is Big Word is always looking to enhance its products and services. How can you help them, whether it's with their acquisition strategies? What is it that you can do that can assist the organisation?
Okay, so I mean that's a good question, because like sometimes when you talk to a company that is getting ready to buy or has discussed an acquisition strategy, when you ask them what do you want, they start kind of describing, but sometimes they start describing different ideas, but they don't necessarily have a sequence, or they don't necessarily have an order of preference. And the place where I start always is, what do you want? And then tell me about you, tell me what you've done and how you've gone about it. Because, for example, companies that have acquired companies and they have a history of M&A, they have their own lessons learned. I mean, and sometimes they have a prism through which they see things that, maybe can be sort of changed, as in, why don't you consider, this other thing? And sometimes, given the priority services that you are kind of using for your market positioning, or given your, most recent history of growth, like if I have that information, I can look at it and say, well, I think you may be thinking that you have these possibilities for acquisition, but I would really advise you to focus on this, augmenting your portfolio, with an acquisition that would go in this direction or in this geography. So I would really be paying attention as to where you are, but obviously from an outsider's point of view, because sometimes what tends to happen, and you know that because you've been on the board and you're an advisor to the board, that there is this kind of an echo chamber where things are being exchanged, and everybody's contributions, they may come from their own observation or their own opinion as to where things should be going. But sometimes somebody from the outside, they might just kind of look at, okay, this is the company, let's say Big Word, and this is the market context, this is where the market is going, these are the strengths of the company, These are the areas where, perhaps, it would make sense to do a bolt-on acquisition, or it would make sense to diversify further, or it might make sense to bring more expertise on this particular sector. So, like, looking at that rather than just giving an opinion. So, for example, a recent example would be like a buyer that said, I might want to buy interpreting services, and it's like, and what would you do with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, it's a good business, and it's like, yeah, it's a good business, but, obviously, you need to do something with it. And would it be to kind of go to your existing clients and say, and now I also do interpreting? Yeah. Or would it be to divert directly into, video interpreting? Yeah. Does it make sense to invest in a company that has a lot of infrastructure for face-to-face interpreting if the industry is moving more and more towards video? Yeah. So these are the things that, like, sometimes when you start kind of breaking them down and kind of looking at them and say, does it make sense? Yes or no? Yeah. Because it might, or it might be for somebody else, not not for you necessarily.
Yeah, I think there's, the big word certainly, you sometimes you're led by a customer, so you can actually, it's, commercially it makes the right sense for us to have a foothold in a certain geography, or to expand on certain services. So effectively you're reacting to a customer, but it's the right thing to do. But I also think there's been some challenges from a cultural perspective, and I think it's not easy acquiring a business, even though on paper you've ticked everything, but the businesses don't gel because the cultures are wrong. So what do you do there?
Yeah, well, it's important to actually get it right from the beginning, if at all possible, because we all know that a lot of these, transactions, they happen because they make sense for the respective boards, for the respective owners, even for the, investment banks involved and the investors involved and whatever. But if there isn't a good chemistry from the beginning, or that basically there is an understanding or a shared vision about something, it is very difficult to fix afterwards. Yeah. And especially, I'm finding sometimes that even when there has been this will to bring a deal through, and it was convenient for the seller and it was convenient for the buyer, when it comes to the post-merger integration, all the challenges start coming up. And sometimes that's even made worse if the deal has been structured in a way that is leading to some misunderstandings in relation to the motivations and how people's performance are going to be measured. I'm thinking specifically about an earnout that basically puts the, if you like, the seller, under pressure, because they're going to be measured on areas that are under the control of somebody else. Yes. These are things that, apart from culture, they can lead to conflict, straight away, and sometimes the dynamics that develop are not the healthiest ones, and sometimes reversing out of that, the more it goes on, it makes things really complicated. So my advice would always be, think about this, play the movie in your head and think about, if this deal goes through, and if we were to agree on, a structure that would go along XYZ lines, let's play the movie forward. How would the post-merge integration work, and how would we prioritize? So my advice is, start thinking about all these things even before it happens. Because if you start getting something here, that says, I don't know, better talk about it now, because later on, it will be very difficult to fix. And sometimes, a company's clients can get worried about the fact that if you go ahead with a big merger, or a really big acquisition that is going to take some time to integrate. That's why I'm saying it's important that all these things are kind of discussed and agreed. At a senior level, so that afterwards, difficulties will emerge, always, for sure, but that it's manageable, because otherwise it can be, I've been part of, the two biggest mergers of localization history once upon a time, Berlitz Bound and Bound Lionbridge, and some of the things, that happen in, the merger of two really, really big companies, really take all the attention span
Yeah.
of very senior managers that have responsibilities and big client portfolios, and right under your nose, I mean, certain dynamics can end up affecting not only the relationship with the client, also the financial performance of the company.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, so it's and then I mean, avoiding what I would call like massive revolving door scenarios. You know, where like suddenly there is kind of an entire group, or you know, that is being displeased or disturbed,
Yeah.
and they go. I mean,
Yeah.
which again, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, creates a completely new dynamic that takes a lot of effort, you know, to manage well afterwards.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. It's a fascinating topic. It's a fascinating industry. We're all excited to be here and excited to join in this conversation. Hopefully you are too. If you are, please like, share and tweet. Please join us with some comments, suggestions. You've been watching M&A Talks from myself, Annette Lawler, and our expert Olga Blasco. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you sometime in the future at a conference somewhere around the world.